Marina, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. It feels so surreal to always do these like connections with you, whether it's a podcast or having you as like a guest or anything like that. It's just really, really cool.
I know the feeling is mutual. So we were just chatting before we hit record and we realized that we worked together back in 2020, which feels like yesterday, but also a lifetime ago because neither of us are even the same, even remotely the same people that we used to be.
It's insane. Like, and it flew by. And I know that so much has changed for so many people throughout the past 3 years, going on 3 years now. It's crazy to think how different we are and also how we're still connected. That just shows you like the power of social media and supporting each other. It's really cool.
I know. It's so wild. Okay. So I've been a part of your journey for a very small length of time relative to your journey that you've had and all these incredible companies that you've worked with. But when I think of you, which if you're watching the YouTube, you'll know exactly what I'm about to say. When I think of you, I think of branding. You've literally nailed it. She's got a matching orange hat to go with her orange shirt with this like cute pink wallpaper and this fake little tree behind her. And like, you're just such a vibe. Everything you do is such a vibe. So how do you see branding? We're just going to start right there because I feel like most people don't understand what branding actually is.
Yeah. So I think when I first started, I thought branding was just this like the visual identity of who you are, like what you look like, right? What your brand looks like or the colors or your logo or anything like that. And I realized throughout the years and how I now communicate branding is the feeling that someone gets with you when you're around and when you're not around. And so if you are watching, I have this orange hat and this orange shirt and I have pink wallpaper and it's bright and happy. And it is such a direct reflection and correlation to one, who I am, but who my personality is, that I am now hoping that, Jess or anybody watching feels that, right? That's the power of branding. It's this feeling that you're giving someone else. And it's just so unfortunate that people just think it's just colors because it's not.
Yeah. It's so funny as you say that, because when we do our YouTube, normally I'm sitting with like an exciting background, but when I podcast, I'm in here and right now I'm wearing a brown sweater with a white wall. And it's like the most opposite juxtaposition of what you look like. And I'm like, oh, well, hopefully I'm giving off grounding energy.
Yes.
Give it like a
peaceful.
Peaceful. Yeah. I've got an amethyst crystal on my neck, like just a calm energy. Certainly not giving off all the fun poppy vibes. So it's not just color. It's not just logo. Do you start with words? Because when you were just saying like playful, vibrant, fun, that's the energy I feel when I'm looking at this whole situation right now with you. Is that where I start? Do I start with words?
Yeah, I love that. So you start with the human that is behind the actual brand, right? So for me, I specialize in personal branding because I truly do not believe any company, any business can succeed without a personal brand behind it. That doesn't necessarily mean the CEO needs to have the personal brand, but it's the employees, it's the influencers, anybody that is amplifying that business needs to have a human behind it. And so when you're thinking about where to start, especially with branding, it is the human. So that means their story, their expertise, their beliefs, like what makes them them. That is what you're going to start with, because that is the ripple effect to the messaging, to the words, to the colors, to the business, then to the marketing.
Does this hold true even if it's a physical product?
Yeah. So a lot of my clients used to be just service-based entrepreneurs. So coaches, fitness trainers, like all the consultants, all of the things. And we started working with actual brick and mortar businesses to support everybody there, from the sales associates to the executives, and building their personal brand, because that personal brand is going to support the sales of the physical product, right? And I actually don't think there's really that much difference between a product service or product business and a service business. Like at the end of the day, you're trying to have someone buy something, whether that's like a physical thing or not, it doesn't really matter. And it really holds truth that like when you're buying, I was talking about this like when I was booking an Airbnb. I loved the conversation that I had with the host so much that to the point where I was going to make that house work no matter what.
Yep.
And I felt the same exact way when I walk into a store and there's a sales associate that is like so personable and like sharing her expertise about the product, but her personal experiences with that product. And it's made me purchase the most expensive things because I've just been bought in on that human.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting too, because even physical products, they make us feel
100%.
something. So sometimes I always do this because I'm at my desk. So I have my water bottle next to me, but the feeling of this water bottle, I don't care for the color. It's all they had available, but the little the divot in the middle where I can like hold it easily, it makes me feel, as silly as this sounds, like safe and secure, because the previous water bottle that I had, I would always drop and it got all dented and then it was like wobbly on my desk. So I feel like a physical product can even make you feel something. And I do
100%.
believe, especially in the US culture, we are oftentimes seeking physical products to make us feel things and material items to make us feel things. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that like, so your feeling was like safety, right? And just feeling reassured. So right now, like if you're watching on YouTube, I have my Stanley cup. It's like pink and it's cute and it's massive. And I think it was like $60 or something, right? And I had asked for it for Christmas.
You and everyone else on TikTok.
Not because I didn't have a water bottle, is because everybody on TikTok had the water bottle. And I'm like, I need this, right? So I can feel included, so I can feel cool, so I can, look like I'm in the same, in like following the trend. And it is so funny to see how feelings play such a huge part of every single purchase and every single action that you do, like that we do.
But it's even this feeling of fitting in, for lack of a better term, right? Because it's everyone literally has that Stanley right now. You know what's really interesting? I read an article recently about how that Stanley came to be. So if you don't know what this is, I'm not an affiliate for it. I don't know. I don't own one. Actually, I own a Stanley thermos, but not that. There's a particular water holder that everybody's using right now with a really fat straw with the handle. It's a Stanley, and most people are buying the muted like pink or blush or taupey kind of tan color. And it's just absolutely viral. Interestingly, I read this article that Stanley's been selling that for years and it would never sell. And they were selling it to their market. And their market is camping, outdoors, hiking, fisherwomen, right? And I don't know if they were approached or by someone or how it happened, but they decided, oh, let's slightly change our marketing. Let's come out with a new color. Let's get it in the hands of some influencers and let's change the feeling. Let's change the vibe to you're working all day at home. You're going to the gym, you're doing your TikToks and you want to make sure you get all of your water in. They made this tiny little shift and all of a sudden it exploded and they did more sales in the first, month of this new message, this new vibe, this new branding than they had in years of it being available.
Yeah. And they couldn't have done that if they didn't tap into the other humans out there that had already built the communities that people were already bought in. Like I would see one influencer that I trusted and she has that water bottle. And guess what? I'm going directly to her Amazon store to buy that water bottle. I don't even care if I have 1 million of the water bottles, but because I trust this person, I'm bought in. And it's like, I know some people might listen to this and be like, I hate that. Like, I don't like the influence that people have, but every single person has an influence, like including the people that don't like influencers or social media or anything like that. Like you have an influence, whether it's just simply your opinion. And so by the time, like while you're building the trust on social and off social, people are just bought in. They'll listen to you. And that's just the power when you're thinking about branding. Like that is the power of personal branding. I keep saying like the power of personal branding. It's not just so you have this like a reputation. It's also so you can provide value and make a difference.
But you have a personal brand in your own home. So even if you're not a business owner, if you have a 9-to-5 job and you don't use social media, you still have a personal brand at home. It's the way that you make your friends and family feel. It's what they think of when they think of you. And so it could even be you go to a restaurant and you like it and you tell your friend about it. That's the same type of influence. You go and see Avatar 2 and you have an opinion and you tell your spouse about it or your friend about it. And your brand holds that clout and that credibility. So it's literally the same thing, having that trust. So Do you think that having really clear direction with your brand as a service provider, like us coaches, is it the chicken or the egg? Like, does getting clarity on the branding come first? You spend time on that, or is it actually serving clients, hearing feedback, tweaking and iterating the branding after?
Yeah. So it's hard. It's like, that question of people being like, should I have one Instagram or two Instagrams? Should I
Yeah.
have a business Instagram or not? It's like, it's not like a black or white answer. Right.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I say that is I personally believe that when you develop the brand first, right, figure out what you want people to know you for, figure out like, and again, you don't have to have it perfect. Like we're evolving, and that's the beauty of personal branding is it's you. And it's the connection that you have with people. But so figuring out that first aspect of like, what do you want people to know you for? And then starting to think about, oh, I'm going to monetize this. This is the product and service that I'm going to offer. I truly believe that that makes it easier to sell the product and the business and the services and all the things, rather than being like, nobody knows who you are.
Right.
You don't have a community. You create a business and then you're like, buy this. And people are like, who the heck are you? Like they're not bought in on that. Does it work at times? Sure. Like, yes, of course, there's so many different companies that you don't know who the branding or the people are behind it. But now more than ever, you will see, I use the example of in 2021, Victoria's Secret changed their angels like campaign, like the famous angels on the runway, to have personal brands and like women that we know and we recognize and that are advocates for something. That's not because they weren't selling their products. They have great products, but they sold it at a higher rate now that they have these humans that people look up to and can relate to. So I don't necessarily think there's a right or wrong answer. I think the better option is that to start with a personal brand, and again, not having to have it quote unquote perfect, but figuring out, what do I want people to know me for? Let me start talking about that. And you kind of touched on it a little bit of entrepreneurs or 9 to 5. Even in 9 to 5. So I got laid off from Yahoo December 2019. And the only reason that I was able to sell the course that I had built with you in 2020 was simply because of the personal brand that I had developed over the years. I didn't like go MIA on social and then start with one follower and be like, hey, like buy this, like I had developed, and it evolved. Like I went from fitness to sharing about being a single mom to corporate America to then being like, hey, I'm a coach and I can help you build your personal brand. That took years. And so evolving is totally fine. But I think the personal brand is so important, whether you're an entrepreneur working 9 to 5, a stay-at-home mom, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about Alex Hormozy and Gary Vee and just so many people like that, they talk all the time about how they put in the reps, maybe not Alex necessarily, but he talks about what I'm going to say. So Gary Vee, Kylie Jenner, The Rock, they put in the reps building the brand for years before ever selling anything. So when they go and sell something, it all of a sudden looks easy. It's effortless, like tequila company, done, sold, easy to do, lip makeup, whatever it is. But it was years and decades of literally just building a brand, having that credibility, that know, like, and trust, that clout, those things that you think of when you think of them. So when they decided to finally pull the trigger and create a product or whatever, a service, then everybody was like foaming at the mouth, ready to buy, which is what I see right now. I know you're following her too. So I don't know how many people on my podcast are, but Alex Earle, let's talk about it. It's incredible to see what she has done in terms of building her brand and her following. We'll talk about who she is in just a second, but I'm waiting. I'm just patiently waiting to see like, all right, honey, what's it going to be? What are you going to sell us all? Because you're doing a lot of influencer deals right now and she's getting paid a boatload of money. But Alex Earle is a 22-year-old TikTok star who literally I think I started knowing who she was in October of 2022, and she had just under 1 million followers. And as of last night, now it's January of 2023. So in 3 months, she's at 4 million followers right now, like just snowballing. And it's the type of thing where everyone is talking about her, almost jumping on the coattails of her success and her rise. Because if you say her name or you write it in your caption, it pushes the algorithm. So like literally everyone's talking about her. And she's doing it in such an authentic way. So I know that you teach 4 pillars of branding, but I want to talk about, what do you think that Alex is doing so well? Like, why is this happening? She's beautiful. She's beautiful. It's great, you know, all the things, but like, why do you think it's happening for her? What has she built into her personal brand that just has her exploding right now?
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of her. I just
Yeah,
think she's just very like addicting to watch.
she
Her
is. I'm
beauty
like 40 years
definitely,
old watching
yeah.
her.
Literally, I like sent it to my girlfriends. I was like, I did not look like this at 22. I just want to
Nope.
preface, like, she's just gorgeous. And so, which can be very triggering for people that are watching her success, but you can't not watch it, which
But
is
like, no
what
one's
it,
mad at her. No,
no
like
one
no
is
one.
mad at her.
Everybody loves
Yeah.
her.
I mean, you're
Why?
getting a wave now of creators that have been working so hard for over years, being like, what the heck? Like, why am I not getting this, type of support? But, and I touched on it. So I think the first thing that she's doing, or the first thing that she started doing, was figuring out what it is in her day that she does constantly. And she's just started talking while she was doing that. So
Yep.
for her, she does the get ready with me, right? And watching someone put makeup on, make coffee, make dinner, whatever it is, is very addicting, because you're waiting for the end result. You want to see what happens at the end. So the watch time obviously is higher. And so
But
she
it's the
started
same
with the
every
get
day, isn't it?
same
Like,
every day.
but
Same
it's
every
so
day.
funny. Like, her makeup is the same every day. There's nothing new happening. We all know how it's going to turn out with the white eyeliner. Like, why are we all
Yeah.
addicted to watching?
Literally to the point where I put white eyeliner. I'm like, this looks ridiculous on me. I don't
Yeah.
need white eyeliner, but I'm just so like influenced by her. And so not only is the makeup the same every day, her stories are just so silly, right?
Yeah.
You're listening to her talk about how she was hungover and how she's missing class, and like, again, I have being a mom, a 7-year-old, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is terrible. Like, like, go to school. But then on the flip side, I'm like, wow, she has this like very aspirational life that
Yeah.
I want to be like that, where I have all my girlfriends and we're going out and we're just enjoying ourselves. And so the where she started was creating that content, being consistent with that content, bringing us into
Stanley down.
yeah, just waving my arms, bringing us into her day, into what is happening in her life, right?
Yeah.
So we were already just slowly getting bought in on who she was and how she's showing up. Then she started sharing. Right now the word like gatekeeping is huge, right? Everybody's like, oh, don't gatekeep. But for years, creators were not sharing the things that they loved unless they were getting paid for it. And I understand you've developed that like platform, and you owe it to yourself to be able to sustain the business and you being an influencer. So I get that. But she didn't care. She's constantly sharing stuff, adding it, of course, to her Amazon store, which she is getting commission off of, and then sharing it out there.
She
The more she
literally
did that,
sells it though. Like, she's using it, but she's
right,
never like, click the link in my bio. Like, it's just, you just
that's
know
it.
where to find it if you want it.
Exactly. And I think the last thing too is it's actually no longer what she's doing. It's the community that is amplifying her. So is she is showing up exactly how she's been showing up since she started her page, right? Same exact content, with the love that she's received and with any negative comments that she's received. She is just consistent, doing the same exact thing, living her life and sharing it.
Yeah.
Now she has built a community of people that just trust her, and they're bought in on her because she shared her downsides of being hungover. She shared her problems with acne. She shares the good and the bad. And so whether you hate her or you love her, it's just people are just obsessed with her, and that is what's giving her the power. It's no longer even just her, it's the community that's amplifying her.
Yeah, I was reading an article recently and they were talking about just projections, and who knows what they actually who's saying them, but they were projecting that 2023 she's going to bring in about 10 million just between like brand deals and influencer things, and it's like she's not even selling anything herself yet. That's the thing that's so crazy. One of the things that I've noticed with her is she's an incredible storyteller. She when she's telling story, and this is so important in branding in your business, we can all share a screenshot of a client testimonial, but when you can tell the story of what that client went through and who they were and where they started, that's when people start to see themselves in your product, in your service, in your business. And so she's an incredible storyteller. When she does her get ready with me and she's telling her story about last night, how she was hungover, you feel like she's FaceTiming you. Like you literally feel like she's a friend FaceTiming you, not someone who's selling you something or this like well thought out, methodical, strategic thing. She just pops on. And if you've ever tried to do, I know you have, a Get Ready With Me, they're really hard. It's
You're so
really
hard.
hard to like start and stop the camera over and over while you're doing makeup. You're like, oh man, I already put the makeup on, but like now I need to go back and say what I was going to say. How much of her success, for lack of a better term, or anyone with branding is being authentic and vulnerable? How much of that is important?
Yeah, I think it's almost 99%, and the other 1% is just luck. Like, uh, and we've been saying the word like vulnerable so much
I
lately
know.
because I think it's so important. But I do think that there is a difference between broadcasting and vulnerability. Like,
Ooh, tell me
so
more.
different. Like, I believe that when you're vulnerable, that means you're like getting out of your comfort zone and sharing something that, one, you need to get off your chest, but inevitably it's going to connect you with someone else so you can, in the long run, help them,
Mhm.
right? Broadcasting is just like literally just broadcasting for attention,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're actually sharing it for attention, not to relate with to anybody or support them. And I do think that that gets like blurred a lot of the times. But authenticity, again, another word that a lot of people use, like being authentic, sometimes people are like, I don't know what that means. And that makes me so sad because social media has made us forget how we can show up authentically. Like, authentically literally just means you, like
Yeah.
not like anybody else, And so I think that is a big part of it, as when she shows up. And you talked about storytelling, and I know you teach like a 15-second storytelling, or like say something in 15 seconds. And that is why the content that is going viral right now is going viral, because people are not doing these hour-long videos. They're digestible, like short clips that you're like, okay, I can finish this. I can finish
Yeah.
this in max 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Anything longer than 3 minutes, you've lost someone.
Yeah.
Most of the time, anything longer than 30 seconds, you've lost them. But if you can just get them in the beginning, then like with that hook, then they'll probably stay on for another 90 seconds or so.
Yeah. I love your broadcasting kind of analogy because there is a fine line where sometimes people will almost use vulnerability as marketing and it can be
Mm.
manipulative. But also, there's so many people that I've worked with that don't want to be vulnerable. And it's like, I don't want to air all my dirty, closet secrets and the skeletons and all of that. So, how do you know how much to share when it comes to being vulnerable? And do you
Yeah, I think
have
that
to, like as a personal brand, do you have to share some of the challenges and things that you're going through?
Yeah, that's such a good question because when I share my story, I'm like, I was I'm not even laughing at that, but it's like I was homeless and we were poor and I was a single mom and I got laid off and I did this, and people are like, "Wow, like I don't have any of this to
Yeah.
share. Like, my life is boring." And so that's where that like vulnerability comes in place, where vulnerability doesn't mean you've experienced something that's so traumatic, and trauma is just what you feel. Like, it's not it's very subjective. But I think that it's really important to think of what is it that you want to share. Vulnerability and sharing things that could be mistakes that you've made and lessons that you've learned. Again, it doesn't have to be something massive, but something that has helped you, like a problem that you experienced and maybe you got to the other side of it and you've learned something, or maybe you're still riding that wave and trying to figure it out, but you're sharing that with the intention to support someone else,
Mm,
right? Like,
that's the
with the
key. Say that
intention to
again.
like bring people in with you to help them. It's
Yeah.
not just to talk, right? And so whenever you even see like creators and personal brands, you're going to see the difference between someone that is just talking and broadcasting and someone that is prioritizing value and education and community and
Yeah.
bringing people along with you rather than just like, look at me.
When you're the consumer, it's so funny. You, collective, all of us, you can feel it. Like you might
Yeah.
not be able to discern, is this person broadcasting or is this supportive? But in your body, you can actually feel it. And the person that's broadcasting oftentimes feels like, ugh, I roll. Like he's talking about this again. This is so heavy. Why are there a victim mentality? Right. It's just like you can
Mhm.
feel it versus the person who's sharing and you can feel that support where you're like, wow, I feel really seen or heard, or I had no idea they went through something like that. Oh my gosh, compassion. So it's interesting because our body will intuitively even lean us a certain way. So it's a pretty good barometer that you can use. Okay. One of my favorite things about you is the way that you teach. I love when you teach. So will you teach us the 4 pillars of branding?
Yes. It
Okay.
has taken me so long to think of a few buckets that you can really put in place to bring you from point A to point B, right? Where are we starting and where do we want to end? And it has taken me about 2.5 years to realize this because I have made so many mistakes along the way of bringing up, developing a brand and supporting other people in developing a brand.
Yeah.
And usually, what we do as entrepreneurs or anybody developing our brand, we start with the business, right? So we think of, I'm going to monetize. And the second that you go into it, just thinking about money, like you're kind of setting yourself up for failure because that energy that we were talking about from a consumer perspective, people are going to realize it immediately that, oh, this person's just after money. And so rather than starting there, the second thing that most people do is start with marketing. Okay, I'm going to, spend thousands of dollars on a website and logo and
I
all
don't
the
know
things.
anyone who's ever done that.
Like, I don't know why anyone would do that, but seriously, like going and spending even money on ads,
Mhm.
and all they're thinking is, I'm going to get this in front of as many people to make money. So
Mhm.
those two concepts and approaches will not work because you have forgotten the first two pillars. The first two pillars, I used to call it the founder phase because I do believe everybody is a founder in their own way of developing something. We now go back between like identity and founder phase, but it really is the human that is behind the brand. And so it starts with you. You are the first phase. This phase will encompass everything from your story, figuring out like what people, your actual perception of what your brand is, right? What do people come to you for right now? A lot of the times, I used to be a fitness competitor, and I changed from being a fitness competitor to um, not like just not being a fitness competitor. A
Got it.
mom. Okay, yeah. So it's like big pivot. And so going from there,
I love
my
you.
brand, like people knew me for fitness.
Yeah,
And so when I
same.
started talking about motherhood, they were like, well, wait, what about your diet? What about your workouts? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about that anymore. And a lot of people will think that, oh no, I can't reinvent myself or do anything else because people know me for this.
Mhm.
I actually think that that is like the biggest opportunity that you have when you're evolving and changing from one personal brand or one perception to another. And so that is like the first phase of really figuring out who you are now, where you are, and where you want to be in terms of what people know you for.
I love the permission that you're giving to evolve and also just the shout outs that you keep saying evolve, evolve, because that's why we named the company what we did, right? Like
Amazing.
we're always evolving, we're always growing. And we get the question a lot. It actually came up 3 times yesterday. 3 times I got the same question about pivoting. And people were like, how do I pivot? When do I pivot? How do I not lose people or get whiplash for my audience if I'm pivoting? And I love when we just replace the word pivot with evolve because we're multidimensional humans. We're always evolving. We're always changing. We're always growing. You're supposed to, you're allowed to. And the way that you teach it and the way that you yourself do it is a very come with me approach rather than a look at me approach. And you're like, yeah, I'm not competing anymore, but now I'm doing this thing. You can choose
Yeah.
to come with me or not. It doesn't mean that I can't still help you with that. It doesn't mean I'm not still interested in that. I'm just not focusing on that right now. And it doesn't mean I'll never go back to it. I mean, for me, it's pretty much a hard no on the competing.
Never.
Never say
Yeah.
never, but like I'm most likely not going to do that again. But the evolution of identity, I think, is really beautiful. And the permission that you're giving with this first step of identity, because that can hold so many people back of like, well, I don't even know who I am. Or what if it changes next
Yeah.
year? Right. Or I have so many interests. And it's like, don't build your business based on your interests. They're always changing. Right.
Always. And I actually I learned that from you, the change of pivot and evolution, because I used to call myself the professional pivoter. Like if I didn't like something, I did not care. I was going to change it. I was going to keep moving. Like I don't care. Like I'm doing something else. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to keep it moving. And I understand that not a lot of people are comfortable doing that. But I think like me moving schools every 5 months while I was younger growing up really helped me like kind of just keep it moving. But I love the word evolve because you're constantly evolving. Like
Yeah.
you're just evolving. It's not that you know, failed at something or it didn't work out or, oh, like it's not a good thing that you are changing. It's great. You're just evolving.
Yeah. One quick question before we move to number two, because we could talk all day. Is
Yeah.
there an exercise that you would have or like a journal prompt to help someone with figuring out their identity?
Yeah. So I love a good brain dump. I know you do too. I talk about it on my podcast all the time. Like I love just trying to create essentially like a biography for yourself of who you are. And a lot of the times my clients are like, I don't even know where to start. I'm like, start with a paper and pen and just write the first thought that comes to your mind.
Yeah.
And so once you do that, my favorite thing is then taking your long brain dump and creating somewhat of like a little sandwich. So the first sentence is really, if nobody ever read anything else about you, that sentence is going to tell them what you do now and what you want to be known for. The little marketing like hack that I love is if you want to be the go-to personal branding, you have to say we're the go-to people for personal branding, right? Like
Yeah.
you might not have any clients, but that is what you're going to say because it's just marketing. And so that the second you say that, it takes that shift. I like to then like extract any pivotal moments that you've had. For me, it was the being a single mom and sharing content, and that impact led me to create the company that I have. And so the exercise is starting the brain dump and then just figuring out what it is that you are doing now that you want people to know you for, what happened, and then what is the impact that created, and that is like the end of it. And so
I
what's
love
really
that.
cool is that with that you realize like your strengths in there, you realize your passions and your interests, and you realize that the things that make you the amazing entrepreneur that you are or the amazing mom that you are has to do with a lot of the things that you've experienced through life. You can't get there until you do that brain dump.
Yeah. I love it. That's the mall map that we always talk about. Like you want to go to this store, but you also need to know like where you are in order to
Yeah.
actually get there. Okay. That was all just pillar one. So pillar one is
Pillar one.
identity. What's two?
Two is brand. So brand has two aspects. So your messaging and the visual identity. The messaging is all going to be like, who are you talking to? But also, what are the words that you constantly want to use? My favorite exercise in that one is when you think about like automotive cars and like car companies, and I was buying a new car and I was like, oh, I want a safe car. And everybody's like, get a Volvo, get a Volvo, get a
Yep.
Volvo. And I'm like, oh, have you had a Volvo? And they're like, no. I'm like, how the heck do you know that a Volvo is safe? And they're like, they just say it's safe. Same thing with BMW. They're like, oh, performance, Tesla,
Mhm.
innovation. And so those companies own a word in their space. And so one of my favorite activities is just thinking about what is that word or two that you want to be known for, right?
Mm.
What do you like? What is the one word that you want to own? For us, like it's personal branding. And so every time I literally open my mouth, I'm saying personal branding because
Yeah.
that is the word that I'm associating myself and my company and my value to. And so again, it's that marketing aspect, which we aren't even at that pillar. It's the marketing aspect of messaging in terms of making sure people are associating you with that word.
Mm.
Messaging, and then visual identity. Visual identity is just simply like being consistent with your colors, how you show up. Doesn't mean you have to spend $30,000 like I did on a website or branding. It's like just create it on Canva, like take it easy because it will evolve. It
Yeah. It's
literally
gonna
will
change.
evolve. I have pink wallpaper now, and I will tell you, there are so many times that I'm like, I can't look at pink anymore. I'm like, what am I going to do? My whole business is pink, you know, but
Yep.
it evolves and that is okay. But it will sting a little bit more if you spend all this money that you don't need to creating colors that really don't matter at the end of the day because people are still bought in more on the messages. But yeah, so that is phase 2 of just brand, which we split it up into messaging, making sure you're consistent with that, and then visual identity. So colors, logos, again, staying consistent. The only reason why we have different pillars is so that we can stay as consistent as possible when we are showing up.
Love that. I love the way that you break brand down too. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Number 3 is business. So now it's time to monetize. So now understanding like, okay, I have this value, I have this expertise, like I have all of these different ideas. Now I want to go do it. What's really cool is that with personal branding, and so if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm like drawing a circle. So there's like an umbrella on the top, right? You are that umbrella, and then everything underneath it are the different avenues that you can make money and you can monetize. And so you can have, for me, we have like empowered confidence is one. The She Did It Anyway podcast is another one. My brand and influencer marketing that I do with sponsors, that's another one. A lot of people feel like they have to just stick with one thing, and that's just a shame. Like you should diversify your revenue streams. And so having those underneath that is business. And so business figuring out what are the different things that you want to do. If you are doing something right now that you don't like, great, evolve and change that, and add those services in there. And so that is the third phase.
With business, having different revenue streams also really is having different offers. When you get into different offers, should they be cousins, like micro extensions of the brand? Is the brand, I'm speaking more about the visual brand and I guess the messaging. Does each offer have its own like little mini brand that's a cousin of the main brand, or is it totally different, or is it same?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on your marketing budget and the energy and the capacity that you have. So there are two things you can do: a house of brand or a branded house. So a house of brands
So glad I
means
asked. Like, wait, hold on. What? There's a thing? You have like a thing to teach?
So a house of brands means a branded house is essentially empowered confidence, right? And then underneath it, I'd have empowered confidence, the course, empowered confidence, the retreat, empowered confidence, the podcast, right? That's a branded house. House of brands is empowered confidence is one umbrella. Then I have brand business accelerator is another umbrella. She Did It Anyway is another umbrella. And they all have different offers. They have different personas and target audiences. They have different branding. It's like different logos, different colors.
Yeah.
The reason why I started and said it really depends on your budget is because it takes more time and more money when you're marketing a bunch of different brands with a bunch of different colors and a bunch of different logos. That association is just really hard, and it can definitely confuse people.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that is, you have two options. And I think like Johnson and Johnson or Johnson & Johnson's like a good example. And then FedEx has like FedEx Ground, FedEx Express, FedEx International, like all those things, but that is a branded house.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you give us an example of a house of brands?
Yes. Who owns P&G? Okay. So P&G has, so let's see how many brands P&G has. So P&G has Bounty, Tide, they have Glide. They have so many different brands that are underneath them. They also have Pampers, they have Tampax, they have Olay, and they have like Oral-B.
Wow.
So and they have so many more, but why I gave those specific examples is because Oral-B is completely different than Tampax. Yeah. Like we can all agree on that.
I hope. Don't get those two confused.
Yeah. So like completely different target audience, completely different branding, completely different, like everything. But it's all goes under Procter & Gamble.
Got it. Cool. Thank you for that. Sorry to put you on the spot. So identity, brand, business, and then what's the fourth?
Marketing. So now it is time to get it out in front of as many of your people as possible. And I really emphasize your people is because a lot of the times we think, oh, we want to get it in front of as many people as possible, but you're just spending money and time and energy that you don't need to, because not everybody is going to be bought in on that product or service. And so how I like to say is that there is this founder and this human that creates this brand that people know, and they have a value and a product and service that they're going to offer. And now it's time to get it out into the world to the right people. And so that's through marketing. And so for me, I only focus on website, email marketing, podcasting, and social media, because that's just what I love. But there's so many different marketing avenues that you can do.
Yeah. And this is definitely something I believe people trip up on at the beginning stages of entrepreneurship or coaching. They go for the paying avenue, right? So it's like, let me pay for ads. Let me pay my way to get there. I even see, gosh, so many times clients will ask me, I got this DM from this like person who promised me to get an article in Forbes if I spend $1,000. And I'm like, no, please, no, you don't even have clout yet. You don't have a
Yeah.
program yet. You don't have client testimonials yet. And even if you did, you don't need to pay for stuff like that. We don't need to be paying for, like you said, a fancy website or PR or a logo or ads. We just don't. If
Yeah.
anything, I think you should do it the organic way first. And I don't know if I think you agree, but do it
Yeah.
organically first, really build that snowball, let it get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then maybe at that time, throw a couple bucks towards it when you know that you have a proven model that works and results.
Totally. When I used to work at Yahoo, we would get so many clients that would spend like millions of dollars on ads, like literally millions of dollars. And their product sucked, their branding sucked, and everything that a client would go and see was just not going to sell. So we would always say, like, you need to develop this first before you start spending the money. And so as solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, it's the same exact thing. So you spend $100 on an ad, they come to your page, you haven't shown up in 12 months and there's like and you're like, what is this? Right. And the downside of that as well is like, let's say you spend all of this money on this ad and you're evolving yourself and your business and your products and your services. Now, the people that came to follow you are no longer following you because you've changed, and that is totally okay. And so thinking about that, and even just like touching base on like virality. So when people go viral for things that are not consistent with who they are and the posts that they create, they get really upset when a lot of the followers leave. But it's like, it's because they're coming to you for that viral piece of content. But if it's not associated with what you can like constantly create, they're not going to stay. They don't want that.
Yeah.
So
it happens all the time.
Yeah. And marketing is just like, I think a lot of these words, they are buzzwords and they can be really overwhelming for people, but marketing literally just means you're connecting with someone else. And so using the free tools like social media to do that is just so powerful.
Yeah. And just even also leaning into building relationships, whether that's through DMs, going to networking events. I mean, I go to networking events once a month in person in real life, going to big events that are 3-day seminar conferences, speaking on stages. Like these are all ways that you can do marketing without having to have like a full-blown launch plan or something. So just to recap the 4 pillars of branding, we've got identity first, which is you. We've got brand, which is twofold. So there's the message and then there's the visual. We've got business, which is going to be your umbrella, or if you're in my world, I teach the octopus, right? So it's all the different tentacles. It's going to be the different streams of revenue. And then we've got marketing, which is essentially how you tell the world about what you do and who you help.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think when we break it down like that, it makes it really easy to go piece by piece. Like my students will, join and it's like week 1 and they're like, okay, but what do I post on social? I'm like, we're not even there yet. Like figure out your story first. Like, what are you doing? And it's easy to get overwhelmed and try to do everything at first. But like, again, the one thing I would always go back to is like, what do you want people to know you for? And having that intention, having that answer hopefully will fuel you when you are creating content, when you are showing up, because if you're creating content that's not aligning with that, like, what are you doing? You know?
Oh, this has been so good. Can you give me, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Just one, the biggest branding mistake you see people making, whether they're new or a veteran?
The biggest branding mistake is copying another brand.
Ooh, I was not expecting you to say that.
Yeah. I have seen it so many times, from products, from services, from colors and imagery to fonts. They see a successful brand, they see a successful entrepreneur, and they're like, I'm going to do exactly what they're doing. And what is so horrendous about that is that you have no idea if this person is succeeding or not. So you're just like, now is my fault. Like I had created a membership, a digital membership, because I saw everybody else creating it. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. And it was so bad, just bad in terms of how it fit into like what I was aligned with and the things that I wanted to do. But I just thought, oh, this is so easy. All these people are doing it. I'm going to do it too. So worst branding mistake, worst mistake ever is just copying someone else, because and you're going to look like everybody else.
Yeah. And it's not authentic, and people can feel
not authentic. And you can't maintain that. You just can't maintain it.
Yeah. I want to come to an end here because I want to be mindful of our time, but another question just popped up and I have to ask it. So You do such a beautiful job. Sebastian is your son. He is
Yes.
adorable, one of the most handsome little boys. And you do a really beautiful job of sharing him on social media, but also not sharing him on social media. And I don't know how you do it because I'm not a mom, but you somehow run a business and you're a mom and you just do it all. And it's incredible to watch. So you're an expander for me. I hope you know that.
Thank you.
But my question for you is for the parents that are out there who don't know how to integrate their children. Do I have to? If I don't want to show them, is that okay? How much of that is important? Because that is a huge part of your brand, is being a mom and being able to run a business and be a mom. So can you just speak to that for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really is going to depend on you and your choice and what you want to do with your children when it comes to social media. You involving your kids will be inevitable because you just can't, like, you can't be a mom. I'm just going to talk for the moms, but you can't be a mom and run your business without being a mom. Like, you just can't, right? And so with that, I love integrating Sebi in, like, just sharing like my day with him, doing drop-offs, breakfast, like if we're on vacation. And I think there's so much beauty in watching him experience life and then me seeing that and then sharing it out with my community. And so I think the biggest thing is, one, deciding what you want to share. I don't post him a lot, but I used to, and then I shifted, and there are waves. And so it really depends on you. The only thing that I will say for all of the moms that are really struggling to figure out, like, not even just like, oh, with my child, it's more of like allocating time for yourself. Like, that's one thing that is really hard. And so although you talk about like doing the dance, there's no like actual balance. And I do believe that like there is work-life harmony. You can't achieve that harmony without allocating time for yourself, for your family, and for your goals. Like, if you use the reason of having a child or being married or a full-time job as the reason why you can't go after your dreams or your goals, you're going to build resentment, and that's the last thing that you want to do, because you won't be able to show up as the mom that you are.
Yeah. Oh, so good. All right. Before we wrap it with a couple of rapid fire questions, before anyone decides to pop off, how can everybody find you, follow you, work with you? Do you do like intensives? What do you have coming up? Let us know, because I know people are definitely going to want to hit you up.
Yeah. So right now I'm just loving that I have the podcast that I launched.
Yes.
And I know you're going to be a guest soon, which I'm really, really excited about, but it's called She Did It Anyway. And it's all about getting over fear and obstacles and doing it anyway. And so you can listen to that on Spotify and Apple and all the things. Instagram, Marina A. Middleton is like my go-to. I answer all DMs, and I just love like having these like probably too long conversations and voice memos in the DMs. And yeah, so we do intensives, we do consulting, we do courses and retreats, and it's all with the end goal of helping you build your personal brand and then making more of an impact and monetizing it.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Well, we'll make sure to link everything in the show notes as well. So a couple rapid fire questions. You ready?
Okay, yeah.
What are you currently reading?
One of my Work Party by Jacqueline Johnson.
Oh, fun. Favorite movie?
I just saw Me Before You the other day. It's just so sad. But I would say that's my favorite so far.
Oh,
I literally saw it yesterday.
I don't know that.
So good. It's so sad. You have to watch it. Watch it.
I mean, I'm not sold. I don't really want to watch a sad movie. You're not really selling me on it, but okay.
It's so good.
You just see your face. She's like, it's so sad. Like, with this awful face. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think so. Snack you can't live without.
Snack I can't live without. Frozen grapes.
Oh, green or red?
Green.
Same. What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a kid? Obviously.
I know I don't mean to sound so sad. I didn't really have any like dreams. Like,
Yeah.
I just didn't have like these aspirations or anything. But I would say in college, I was like, I dream to work at Yahoo or Google, and I ended up at Yahoo. So it was cool.
Amazing. Our $50,000 question. If I were to cut you a check and give it to you tomorrow for 50 grand, how would you use it in your business?
How would I use it in my business? I would hire more people. I would hire more people specifically in the marketing aspect to get all the amazing things that we're doing out there to more people.
Yeah, I love it. So as you know, we named the company and the podcast Digital Business Evolution because we believe we're always evolving and growing, and our businesses are a reflection of that. So what is your next personal or business evolution?
Ooh, this is so good. God, I would say my biggest personal evolution. I am doing this thing where I'm saying I'm like reinventing myself, and it's everything from my boundaries, where I'm pouring into my energy, my closet and the clothes that I own, to how I show up, to how I speak to myself. I'm like, to my habits, like everything. I just want everything new and aligned with the 31-year-old me, and not, who I'm trying to hold on to from the past.
I love that. Oh man, I have to just publicly edify you. I didn't do it at the beginning, but I'm going to do it now. I'm just so proud of you. Everything that you've built, the consistency, the pivots, the evolutions, the mistakes that you said you've made, right? And the lessons that you've learned from them, consistently putting yourself in rooms that stretch you, consistently investing in yourself. The relationship that we've built over the last couple of years is just so special to me. I hope you know that. And I'm just so proud of you. I'm so inspired by you. I really am.
Thank you. You're
Yeah.
the best. And you have always been such an amazing cheerleader, even if we're not actively working together. It's just really cool. And for anybody that is listening, it's hard to find that. It really is. It's hard to find coaches that will continue to support you, even if you're not paying them. So I appreciate you for always being by my side.
I love it. Well, ladies and gents, there you have it, Marina Middleton. If you loved this episode, which I know you did, and you want to talk to us about Alex Earl, which I know you do, take a screenshot of this episode, share it on social media, tag Marina at Marina A. Middleton, tag me at I am Jessica DeRose. Let us know what some of your biggest takeaways are. That's the best way that we can give back to Marina. It's how we can pour back into her and let her know that what she is teaching is sticking. As you build out your brands, tell her, let her know. And as always, cheers to your evolution. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.